Remember, all I'm offering is the truth.
And on the cool check-in, center stage on the mic.
How y'all feel out there?
Introducing
Get down.
the world famous
I said it hit the news.
Let's go. Now, let me introduce you to the one. Let me introduce you to the
Truth in the place to be, as it is plain to see.
Now,
Hidden in plain sight.
and mind your business.
Watch out.
New world order.
I'm not gonna take this anymore.
You know what I'm saying? So what you saying?
Check this out.
Here we go.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to a very special edition of Hips News. I'm your guy, Vessel 1, by my side, Vessel 2. Vessel 2, how are you doing today?
Morning, greetings. I'm here, president of the Accounting for, ready to get this in. This is going to be a special show. Thank you for including me on this project in all ways. Everything's good on my end. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm very excited for this to go down. Joining us on Hips News is a gentleman that is an inspiration to both Vessel 2 and I, and is an inspiration to his listeners out there that follow him on Radio Land. You can hear him on Genesis Communication Network every Sunday from 3 to 5. The legendary hip hop media and information that brings the truth, the one, the only, Mr. Sean Anthony. Ladies and gentlemen.
Peace.
Well, Sean, yes.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it, man. It's an honor to be on with you guys.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Yeah. So, Mr. Anthony, you've been in the radio business for about 30 some odd years. And what made you pursue this career in radio?
Well, it began with my passion for music. You know, growing up on the East Coast of New Jersey, I was at a very early age. You know, my parents had me involved in entertainment and acting, and music was always around. My mother, I really attribute it to her with buying albums and just taking me to concerts. And I had an older cousin who was in the music industry, so I've always been around it. So when I moved to Ohio when I was 15, there was a career center school for high school that I went to called Fort Hayes Radio and Television Career Center. It's a career center. It's sort of like Fame. If you remember Fame back in the day, it was a performing arts school. It is a performing arts school. So they had theater, dance, instrumental music, and they had radio and television. I actually auditioned for the theater program because I was doing acting and modeling as a kid, but I always had the passion for music and creating music. When I went to the school to audition for the theater program, I found out that they had a radio and television program, and I said, you know what, let me go in that direction. So that's when I started, my radio career in high school. And my junior and senior year in high school, I was interning and working at 2 different radio stations. So that's why I can say I've been doing it for, nearly 30 years. And I haven't looked back since.
Vessel 2, you have anything to ask Mr. Sean Anthony?
Say you're originally from Jersey, ended up in Ohio. What part of Ohio you went to school to?
Columbus. Yeah, Columbus, Ohio. Yep, I grew up in South Jersey and moved here, like I said, in 15, and went to the Career Center. Then I went to college. I went to Central State University for a year, but I ended up graduating from an audio engineering school where it focused on audio engineering and music production. And then I ended up moving back to New Jersey after I graduated there, and I started working as a DJ out of for this company out of Philly called The Pros.
Oh, and, nice.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, acting, radio. I know having your disc jockey career. I believe doing research, you started off with Urban One, if I'm not mistaken. Urban One.
Well, when I was in high school, it was WNCI, which is it was Clear Channel at the time, and then Clear Channel became iHeart Media or iHeart Radio. But then, long story short, after when I went full steam ahead with my radio career, the company that owned the station here in Columbus, Ohio, was called Blue Chip Broadcasting, which was a black-owned radio company. The owner owned about 15 stations, and Radio One came and bought the company from him in the late 90s or the early 2000s. It was around 2000, 2001. Might have been 99, 2000, 2001, around that era. And it was Radio One at the time. They bought those stations from Mr. Ross Love, and that's how it switched from me being from working with Blue Chip Broadcasting to Radio One. And then lately, Radio One expanded and grew, so they changed their name to Urban One.
Okay. Yeah, but from Urban One, moving on to GCN and the Flow of Wisdom program. How did you come up with that name, and what made you go that route? Because that seemed like a different change from spinning records or even acting. Flow of Wisdom is more progressive radio show. And how did you come up with that concept of Flow of Wisdom and doing that type of thing?
Well, I've worked in multiple markets throughout my career, and I've worked in Detroit, Washington, D.C., and in Virginia. And when I was in Virginia, I was doing, I worked at the hip hop station. I was doing a night show, and around 2009, I started doing a Sunday morning talk show on the hip hop station that I was at. And it would be an hour long, and at first it was called The Power of One Voice. It was just heard locally in Richmond, VA. And I was still trying to find my way. I never did talk radio before. At that point, the bulk of my career was based in the music format of radio. So it was challenging at first. So when I first started doing it, I was doing all kind of crazy topics, man. It was more or less like a hip hop Jerry Springer type show. You know what I'm saying? I was doing all kind of crazy topics, just trying to find my way. And, I created the name Flow of Wisdom years ago, but, back in the around 2004, around 2005, I came up with Flow of Wisdom. And when I was doing that show, I was trying to find my way with it, doing talk radio, and I had some learning curves, man. Like I said, transitioning, not so much transitioning, but just adjusting to talk radio. The format for talk radio and music format is totally different. So as I progressed and evolved and start to get a little handle on what direction I wanted to take the show, I rebranded it and called it Flow of Wisdom. And then that's when I went, full steam ahead about, really tackling things that don't usually get spoken in the mainstream media. But the real pivot happened when I interviewed, because I was interviewing people, but the real pivot happened when I interviewed this one guest, and it's a brother by the name of Steve Coakley. May he rest in peace. Steve Coakley, when I interviewed him, the show took a different trajectory from that point on.
I can imagine. Yeah, he's a rebel when it comes to telling the truth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Imagine.
Yeah. And speaking of which, yeah, one of Steve Coakley's, I guess, prodigies, or one who has followed Steve, Robert X. That's another person we like to give shout out to that bring things to the table. And you also had him on your show several times, and those are some of the greatest shows that I have ever heard, because you and him together, you guys put it out there. Yeah, so big ups to both of you and the elder Robert X and the late Steve Coakley. And a follow-up question after you have done Floor Wisdom: do you now consider yourself more a researcher or a journalist?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Researcher can definitely be added to my list of skill sets, and I attribute that to Brother Robert X. So peace and blessings to Brother Robert X, because he helped me cultivate the skill set of research. Because prior to me meeting with Brother Robert, I did my research, but he helped me focus it. You know, he gave me nuggets and gems on how to research that took my research to a whole nother level, which hence took Flow of Wisdom to another level as far as the depth of content that I would provide on a weekly basis. You know, so with his wisdom and guidance, it took my skill set to another level as it pertains to research.
Oh, I dig that. Oh, wow. Yeah, there's several interviews that I have heard, and of course, we Vessel 1 and I, Vessel 2 and I, have listened to your show and followed your show over the years. And again, this is kind of one of the reasons why we also started to get into the podcasting and such, which is what Hips News is about. And it's an acronym meaning things that's hidden in plain sight. So we want to kind of, again, somewhat, yes, following your footsteps and, learn from you and put out things that need to be stated or need to be learned or actually seen, because the community, people need to know what's happening around them. And it's important because what's going on now, it might not affect you today, but it will affect you tomorrow or in the near future. And that's something, you should be prepared for. Vessel 2, is there any questions you would like to pose to Brother Sean Anthony?
Yeah, thank you, Vessel 1. I just want to piggyback off of something that you said. Yes, Sean, we've been listening to you. Well, I personally started listening to you around 2008. And I heard you on GCN. And I noticed there was only two brothers on the station at the time, you and Charles Butler. And it was a toss-up for me to follow which one that, was telling me the information that I could use and implement if I needed to. And he is no longer on GCN. You're still on GCN. And because of you, that's how I was able to share with Vessel 1 how we can be in Japan still be able to be connected to the States and get a feeling of what's going on behind the scenes. And then once you were interviewing Dr. X, I started listening to him. And then for the longest time, he would come on and I would pick up his information. And then I never went out to see whether or not he can actually be in touch or he can be reached. And then he came on the show and he said that, or you said that he could be found on the Beverly D show. So I jumped online to see what that was about. And between your information and his information, it's brought so much information to us that I really have to say thank you and appreciate you for what you do. And your craftsmanship and your work set is very enlightening. And I'm glad to be able to sit down behind these microphones and voice this to you, because being in a foreign country, there's topics that you cover in the States, and even the whole attitude of Americans vice being in the States and living outside the States is kind of different. So you've been able to make that bridge for us, and I really appreciate it. Just wanted to get that off my chest. Thank you so much, sir.
Man, thank you, man. I appreciate hearing that. It means a lot. It really does, because you don't get to, when you're doing radio, the only kind of responses you get is after the fact. You don't know if you're reaching people. You don't know if you're connecting with people. You don't know if you're making an impact unless someone reaches out and tells you that. So I appreciate the sentiments. I truly do, because I have no idea. And the fact that you're saying you guys are locking in with us, myself and Brother Robert X from Japan, is just I'm humbled. I'm humbled, man.
And we have to get backdoor VPNs to get a lot of the shows, because it's not, information that I'm assuming they want out. But yes, I appreciate it. And, me and Vessel One both military background, and we've been in Japan for the longest. I would say both of us over 25 years. Correct, Vessel One?
That's correct. Yes.
And a lot of the topics that y'all cover, we pick it up, and it's kind of sometimes hard to digest because we can see it from a different view. And
exactly,
living outside of the States, it's like, I guess, depending on where you're at, we live in, what they consider to be one of the safest countries in the world. So with that, it gives us a little bit of extra freedom to seek knowledge of self. And there's only so many shows out there that actually bring that information to you, to whether you can pick it up and use it for yourself, or you're just part of the flock. So yeah, it's good to be able to, like I said, reach out and see somebody who has who's taken the time and just return the sentiment. Really appreciate that.
Yes, you're here. You're here to Mr. Sean Anthony.
I have a question about your GCN experience. We know that things are not live as of a couple, I guess, months or so. Are you still going to be able to stay with them? Are you still going to be able to put out your information on that link?
Yeah. As of now, I'm still with GCN. Prior to this interview, I just pre-recorded an interview that's going to be airing for tomorrow's show.
Nice.
So that'll be there, but yeah, nothing's inhibiting me from doing anything, man. To address the elephant in the room, I guess what you guys are probably wanting to know, like what's up with Flow of Wisdom? Why hasn't there been any current content on there? It's a myriad of different reasons, but overall, man, it's I'm trying to figure some things out. But on top of that, I got burnt out. In 2020. I was dealing with a lot personally. I lost some family members that year. I lost my father, which was my best friend. And going through all of that, I still kept bringing the content. I still kept bringing the information. And it got to a point, and then YouTube really started messing with me. That was discouraging.
We see that, yes.
They started, demonetizing the channel. They started shutting down videos, pulling videos off, even old videos, like videos that was like 2 or 3 years old. I'm like, what is going on? But I knew what was going on, but I was just rhetorically asking, like, why are they messing with me like this? Because like, I ain't even doing any, intentional disinformation or anything. Like I pride myself on the research and presenting the facts. But leading up to 2020, we meaning those of us that have been researching this stuff and putting this stuff out for years, we knew what was coming. We knew that it was going to be a strong censorship and some way to obstruct the flow of information. We knew that was going to happen, but to see it happen in my time, I just didn't. It just was baffling to me, right?
Right.
And so I wear multiple hats. I have multiple ways of multiple streams of income. So my schedule was 7 days a week, right? 7 days a week, nonstop. I'm on the radio. I teach. I'm a teacher. I teach radio and I teach audio production at the school here, a media school here, and do Flow of Wisdom. Not to mention, my family. I'm a husband. I'm a father. You know what I'm saying? All of those other things. But towards the end of 2020, it started to take a toll on me, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So much so that in October of 2020, I told the school that let me take a 3-month break and come back teaching at the beginning of 2021 in January. I'm not quitting. I'll still come in a couple of days to tutor students, but just take me off of the schedule from teaching just until the top of the year so I can get a breather. You know what I'm saying? And I did that. That helped me get a second win. And then 2021 happens, and I'm putting out information, and I'm still trying to, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure out the balance, because since I moved back from, when I moved from VA to back to Columbus, Ohio, then I'm back on locally, on the radio here. So I was trying to find that balance of, providing the content. So then Flow of Wisdom, which normally I would do the show live, live, interacting with phone calls, live calling in, to having to pre-record the show. And normally I would pre-record it, a day or two in advance. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, today I just recorded an interview. It's going to air tomorrow. So I was trying to get into that flow, and it was really challenging and difficult. And then again, like I said, when I was starting to do lives and set up a set schedule of going live on my YouTube channel, to then turn around 24, 48 hours, YouTube pulling off the video. And I'm like, man, like I wasn't even saying anything crazy in the video, you know what I'm saying? But they was flagging my videos and my channel, that it was dangerous or sending out harmful information. I can't remember what it was, but it was extremely discouraging, draining, and I was just getting frustrated. I was getting burnt out. And so, yeah, over the last several months, I was just like, well, on top of that, I did quite a bit of traveling too, amongst this so-called pandemic anyway, you know what I'm saying? I was still been traveling, and I did quite a bit of traveling last year. So when I came back from one particular vacation, you know, after I ran a repeat, I just kept running repeats and kind of trying to find, you know, relevant information that I've covered, because I've got a lot of content. But now you can tell that it's dated because so many things have evolved as of late over the past 2 years or so. So much information, technology, and everything has evolved. So you can tell that the information it may have been dated or what have you. But nonetheless, you know, that's to address, you know, probably what you guys were wondering, what's going on with the content.
We miss our brother on the air.
That's it. You know, we you know, it's like a fix. You know, once you give it to us, you know, we looking for it because it's relative information, and you know, and it keeps us aware of what's going on. And again, thank you. And it's you know, it's a pleasure sitting down chopping it up with you. We can go into Kalende Ely. That's another person you interviewed. I'm kind of interested in the mushroom aspect of things, and you touched based on that. And I never got a chance to see your continuation of the story of Epstein. You did a great show with talking about Epstein and things that happened and surround him and the people who he was involved with, and that has grown over Julian Assange, and this YouTube scenario. We too have our issues with it as well, and all this and more we can discuss. So if you still have the time, Sean, just we reconnect and we'll continue, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right.